Ah, oh, that's hot. That's hot.
Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to another review and analysis for the Apothecary Diaries, brought to you by Camille's Harem. Not just a podcast for novice writers by novice writers, but also a YouTube channel by novice writers for novice writers. Because writing is an adventure, it's more fun with friends. And Scott and Lars are joining a dubious hunting trip along with royalty that leads to possible sexy fun times. We just have to wait until the next episode.
This episode felt like it went by way too quick. There's a lot going on, and we're having to pick up a lot of like subtext and like context clues as this episode progresses, and like it's setting up for something that's going to happen in the next episode. I'm surprised they didn't just get on with it and have that happen this episode, but that's getting ahead of myself. You'll all see it when it comes out this next Friday.
Yeah, but we got another frog in this episode. And we are continuing to display frogs throughout our reviews and analyses. We haven't had anyone pick up a frog recently. Please, we would love to give away a free frog drawn by Camille. All you got to do is count the correct number of frogs in this video. Be the first person to comment with the correct number of frogs, and you will win yourself a frog. Believe you me, it is worth it to join the illustrious brotherhood of frogs.
You know what we should do when we get back to reviewing some of the Dawn to Dawn episodes, when that starts releasing again, is have golden balls hidden everywhere.
Oh my gosh, yes. find Okarune's golden balls.
Oh, okay. Okay, back on topic.
Have something for that. Also, you'll want to watch this video all the way through to the very end, because I've got something special cooked up for the very end of this video.
Okay, this will be a surprise because I have no idea what's going on with that.
Yes. After watching this episode twice, I could not resist putting this together. And for those who immediately make the connection while watching this, congratulations, you are a well-cultured individual.
Okay.
All right, so let's just dive into the events of this particular episode. So this episode opens up with Jinshi and Gaoshan making plans to take Maomao off with them on a hunting adventure. And we get an interesting brief showdown between Jinshi and Lady Gyokuyo, which I thought was amazing, where Gyokuyo is capitalizing on the fact that Jinshi never uses Maomao's name, always calls her either Apothecary or girl, and starts teasing him because she's like, well, which girl? Huh? Who? And I really, really enjoyed that scene. It's just another little brief moment of the women kind of utilizing their own power and flipping Jinshi's vagueness on itself to make him uncomfortable. Lady Gyokuyo would be fun to have verbal spars with. Yes. In any case, Maomao is given on over to Jinshi to go on this hunting trip, but it's all really weird and confusing to her, because rather than riding with Jinshi or Gaoshan, she's riding with Gaoshan's son, Basen, who explains to her the history of their kingdom, why the northern province where the prime minister Shiso is very powerful. This is his domain, and he is the one who has organized this very important hunting trip. The emperor's not arriving, so it seems a little bit weird. But Jinshi, everywhere he goes, unless it's super private, has this mask on, like he's about to go rob a place. And he asks that everyone in his entourage refer to him under a code name. Maomao is supposed to keep her distance this entire time, keep a watch over him. And it's important to do because he starts getting, looks like he's getting a little bit of heat stroke, being all covered up. It's incredibly hot during the trip, and he's not eating or drinking anything, even though in one scene Maomao realizes that there's nothing that's been poisoned in his food or drink at all. Like, it's totally fine to eat. He just refuses to eat any of it. And we quickly learn And one of the things that has been done to his food is that all these kinds of dishes that are meant to act as natural aphrodisiacs are all in his drink and food. So it's supposed to make him, as you said, Scott, a little bit hot under the sheets.
Mm-hmm.
Poor Boston is asked to eat some of it, and the poor guy faints from a sudden rush of blood. Oh boy. I love how he's also at one point asked Maomao, how are you not affected by this? I guess I'm just built different.
I mean, Maomao is built different.
Oh, she is. Whether it's because of her time in the red light district or all the poisons that she puts herself through, this girl is fortified against all of that stuff. A neat little side bit, which I think was actually really cool to include, is that we get to see Lihaku. He's been given a raise to the Imperial Guard. So hey, this guy's making more money. He's on his path to buying Perrin out of her contract. Good for him. Unfortunately, though, the other Imperial Guards don't like this because he's a country bumpkin who's quickly rising through the ranks. So that makes him a bit of an outsider, which though facilitates a cute conversation between him and Maomao concerning a dog. I wonder if that's going to be important later on. But coming back to the hunt is underway. They're all at the hunting lodge. There's a dinner that's being thrown, or a lunch party by the looks of it, that's being thrown, and Jinshi, while in disguise, looks very, very uncomfortable, and he excuses himself, most likely not because of whatever verbal barbs have been thrown his way by the prime minister, but because he's suffering from how hot it is. So he's going outside trying to get some refreshment. Maomao goes with some drink that has salt and soy paste in it to restore all the salt he's been sweating out. But before she has a chance to really help him out, he tries to confess his identity to her, and is interrupted by assassins who have their hands on Western-made pistols. And they shoot at him, and these poor guys should have known, you don't shoot from 30 meters away with a pistol. You gotta be up at least 10 meters for that to hit accurately. These assassins did not check out their guns beforehand. That's a rookie move, assassins. That's a rookie move. This luckily allows for Jinshi and Maomao to escape because they miss once. Second time, Jinshi manages to pick up Maomao before the shot hit either of them. He rushes, jumps off a waterfall. The assassins believe that they're dead, but he manages to swim into a cave that he knows about, and there resuscitates Maomao. They get a little bit undressed before getting redressed, trying to escape out of the cave, and then a frog hits Maomao on her way up. She falls down, and the compromising position that these two find themselves in. And that is where the episode ends.
I'm so excited for next episode. The amount of drama this situation has, and we all know it's Jinshi's freaking fault because he can't get the balls to just outright explain his situation to Maomao, even though
the balls.
It's his. Yeah. You get my point.
Yeah.
He has every chance, and people are trying to tell him, you need to tell her. And he can't get himself to do it. He keeps trying to beat around the bush a little bit, scare the bird out, try to force himself to say it. And it hasn't happened yet. And because of that, we're going to have a very hilarious situation about to happen next episode.
Well, and there's something I want to quickly say to that. This makes Jinshi such a relatable character in my opinion, because this happens so often to guys and to girls too, but especially to guys, where they like a girl, and it seems as though you have every reason to believe that everything's going to go well if you confess your feelings. But how many times has it not worked out, or what are all the ways it could go wrong? like that's incredibly anxiety inducing, that's scary, and no matter what Jinji's position is, once he confesses who he is, which also will kind of begin to imply more of his feelings towards her, that will change the dynamic, that'll change the relationship, and he's happy with what is right now. Of course he would like it to be more, but it's just like, this could ruin a good thing. And so it's relatable how scared he is, and I like that detail that's added in.
That makes a lot of sense. I like how Maomao, though, even though she doesn't know like anything that's going on, she's kind of she knows enough that she should just be able to figure it out, but she hasn't been. But like, she's still, even though she doesn't know, she's still willing to like keep going along, keep getting dragged around by Jinshi's different plans. It kind of exasperates her at times, but she's just, it's not an adamant no at the same time, if that makes sense. But I don't know, there's a lot more intrigue coming out, because we're no longer in the rear palace, which the rear palace had all sorts of intrigue and like assassination attempts and just a bunch of different stuff happening as like different like emotions and motives kind of butted heads with each other. But now we're outside of that. We're outside of the place where Jinshi and Maomao had more control, and suddenly another group that's not so friendly is out to get them, and in multiple ways, because you've got the food with all the aphrodisiacs in it, and then you have the assassination attempt happening both in the same episode. And so even though we're not sure what's all going on here, we do know it's tied to Shiso, who is the prime minister of this part of the country, who had set up this hunt. Because like, it's a royal hunt, you're out in the woods, accidents do happen. So there's a lot of cross lines, so it's not readily clear like who's pushing what buttons in this case. It doesn't stop us from making theories, though.
And when we were discussing this before recording, we were talking about like that we don't know what factions are necessarily doing what. We know that Lord Shiso is an incredibly powerful individual who was highly favored by the previous Empress Dowager, and now has his daughter in the harem of the rear palace, and he controls one of the largest provinces. This could very well be a guy who's making a power play to make sure that his family ends up on the throne. He has all the resources, means, and connections to make this happen. But the aphrodisiacs being introduced into the food makes you wonder, like, are they trying to make sure that Jinshi has a son? Because Jinshi, for all intents and purposes, is the emperor's younger brother. The emperor has not yet produced a surviving male heir. What if they're wanting to continue the royal line, but through Jinshi in order to usurp the current emperor? Because the current emperor has shown that he has a lot of autonomy. He is pushing, along with the help of his mother, for more progressive stances on things such as slavery, the castration of eunuchs, and all this stuff, which goes against the old order. That could cause all kinds of problems with more traditionalists, or with people who are connected to certain industries, that getting rid of the current emperor might be a good thing to do. Or what if the emperor and his younger brother are in cahoots, but we need the imperial line to continue? We could get ourselves another prince that we might be able to control better. And you were bringing up how this is all up in the north, in an area controlled by Lord Shiso, and they didn't know that Maomao was coming. And so it could very well have been that they might have intended to get Jinshi all hot and bothered, and then introduce a woman who they hope would then get knocked up, and they could then control the kid that way. There's many different things happening, and all of these schemes could benefit Lord Shiso in various ways. He just has to facilitate the opportunity for any of these things to happen.
Ooh, I can't say it now, but I'm pretty sure I know who they would have introduced to Jinshi.
Oh,
that would have been interesting.
oh,
That would have been really interesting. Okay, we can keep going. We can keep going. Because I can't say much because there's reasons that character's not in the picture right now, but they will be back.
Very interesting. You've piqued my curiosity, good sir. Real quick, I love that Maomao's hair is done up to look like cat ears throughout most of this episode. It was just a fun little detail, and it made me wonder if that because she's a part of Jinshi's entourage, if that was not very intentional on the part of the people who helped Maomao do herself up, because we've seen Maomao pretty herself up, and she's never done anything too intricate with her hair. She just lets it fall.
Yeah.
Like, she can do makeup, she can dress up nicely, but that's not necessarily her. She doesn't like doing it. So if her hair has been done up interestingly, it's probably been done by another woman. So
yeah.
That was a neat little subtle detail. And as you said, there's just so many details in this episode of the different power dynamics that are at play. Like, bring up Lihaku, how he's kind of been pushed out by the other Imperial guards, which isn't all that great for him, but is actually beneficial to an outsider like Maomao and to Jinshi, because of the previous things that happened in season 1. Jinshi does have a hand in some way in Lihaku's rise. He's a bought and paid for man within the entourage. That's a very key asset to have. By having Gaoshin close to Jinshi the entire time as well. I thought that was interesting, because for the people within the palace who are not part of the rear palace, this would make absolute sense to them, because this is an old retired military officer who is with the emperor's younger brother. That is something that people would expect, and it's another way of legitimizing and kind of protecting the younger brother while he's out on a hunt far away from the palace.
Right. I do love how we're getting just another one, kind of more minor character, but like Bossin and the dog, because like if you read the light novel, all of the time they keep calling Bossin like the dog of the court, or like.
Are you talking Lihaku or Bossin?
Who was it with the dog?
Lihaku's the one with the dog.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm mixing my signals, because in the light novel they do call Bossin like the dog of the court kind of idea.
Oh,
I'm not quoting that right, but he's, because like they're pointing out Lacan is like this kind of animal, and another character
like
is that kind of Lacan is like the fox, and then like the wily fox, and then you've got Bossin, who's like the loyal, always like ready to like work on a problem dog kind of idea.
Oh, that's interesting.
But I do like how we're getting more of like his character, because he plays a bigger role later that I know of.
That's really interesting. Huh. No, there's I definitely want to see more of Bossin, because once we get out of the rear palace and we get a little bit more of the other politics that are going on, it's clear that Gaoshin at one point possessed a pretty important high rank, and that it's expected of his son to rise to a particular rank as well. He's the one person who is let in on Jinshi and his secrets, and he's also the one person who trains with Jinshi, and then of course he's brought along on this particular trip. So it's clear that he is an important official. He's the son of a very important official, and that they expect him to continue to rise through the ranks. So that is conveyed subtly in this episode.
Maomao calls him a bearing human skin, but that's for a different reason. Crap, I'd have to find where they were talking about that in the actual novel, because I'm not sure.
Yeah, that'd be neat to bring up. There's as you're looking into that. One other thing that I want to bring up, I made the joke about the Western pistols. Some history because I was a history major. I've got 2 degrees in history. So something interesting to consider about this gun, because this gun is very, very likely been imported from the West and brought in. We've seen that the West has been sending envoys with all different kinds of stuff to the palace. Trade is definitely flowing between the East and the West, which is good for all these people. And some people might wonder, wait a second, why would these people need to import in a gun when the Chinese already had access to gunpowder, and the Chinese and Japanese were already using arquebuses? Arquebuses, wow, there's a word right there for you.
Please don't.
It's an actual thing.
Okay.
It's an actual thing. So if you've seen the movie Princess Mononoke, that is what they're using when they're fighting the wolves. They're long poles that would have a gun on them in order for you to not have your arm blown off or dislocated while you're using these things, because old school guns had horrible recoil and horrible aim. But if you get enough people together in a group, boom, you can just fire a massive volley and it'll do massive devastation. The Chinese and Japanese were not very keen on letting gunpowder and these kinds of guns become widely used because they were so destructive against armor. Could very, very easily take out some of your best warriors, which you want on a battlefield, but you don't want this to somehow get into the hands of regular common folk. And so during times of war, when levies were brought up, regular people were brought up to fill in the ranks, they would be given stuff like crossbows. Easy to use, deadly at the right range, and you don't have to worry about those things wrecking very valuable armor or completely upsetting the natural order by going kaboom. You do not want the peasantry to have gunpowder. But what that means then is that your technology will actually be limited because you're trying to not let it fall into other people's hands. Over in the West, once the West figured out how to use gunpowder, they had no such qualms. They started making guns galore because it was a really fantastic way to kill people. And so that means then that the West rapidly innovated gunpowder and all different types of guns. So if you wish to have a gun and that bullets, if it struck true, if it doesn't kill Jinshi outright, it will kill him in the long run, because you don't survive most of those old school bullet wounds. They were nasty. So you would then want to have a good weapon that would allow you to kill Jinshi really, really quickly. And a gun is just perfect for that. But you need a gun that's reliable, a gun that's more accurate. So you'd want to have a Western-made weapon. Granted, when we talk about accurate, like I said, you want to be like 10 meters in front of someone with a pistol, not 30 meters back, because that definitely will influence the trajectory of a ball zipping through the air. So just a little bit of interesting history going on into that. There might be some people say, well, actually, the Chinese did have their own handguns. I do believe that. But I'm more confident that this is a Western imported weapon because of its style, and it's another connection to the dangers brought on by the Western envoys who have been bringing in all these other things. And remember that there was that connection. The caravan brought in a bunch of materials that would be deadly to unborn or newly born children, disguised amongst all of this seemingly harmless stuff for the women of the rear palace. How would anyone in the caravan know to bring that stuff in unless a higher ranking official had a connection with them and told them what to bring? Who is a higher ranking official who would obviously have a connection to the West and know what's happening in the palace? Prime Minister Lord Shiso.
You are, from what I know from reading ahead, you are onto something. Just saying. You are on to something. Anyway, I do have to say, just from what I know of like Japanese history, I know Oda Nobunaga was really like into bringing guns into warfare. Like back in the 1570s, he was one of the first in Japan to start incorporating them into like tactics and strategy at that time.
Yeah, no.
Huh.
When the Japanese decided to really use gunpowder,
Mhm.
like it is incredible what they innovated.
Yeah.
The strategies that they use, independent of Western technology and Western tactical influence, they
Mhm.
actually came up with something very similar to the Spanish Tracio,
Hmm.
but made it accommodated it for samurai sensibilities,
Ooh.
which I think I would argue that the Japanese had long before the Swiss pikemen figured out how to break. I think that if you had taken the samurai formation that used arquebusier fire and
Mhm.
put them up against the Spanish Tracio, which also used arquebusier fire, that the samurai could have beaten the Spanish
Oh wow.
Tracio. Like
Okay.
that's my assessment of it. The Japanese really knew how to put gunpowder to use, and so it's actually kind of so it's a what if of history. What if the Japanese had never gone back on gunpowder and gotten rid of most of their guns before the Americans arrived?
Right.
Because the Japanese probably could have gone toe to toe with the Americans in the 1800s, but because they got rid of their guns and did not innovate much beyond that, they could not keep up with American firepower.
And we can blame the Tokugawa for that. Woo!
Freaking Tokugawa. Great name, interesting history.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we've covered quite a bit for this episode. I am so looking forward to this next episode. It's going to be so much fun.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I am excited as well. I might finally understand what all the frog business is about. Which, believe it or not, everyone, no, I have not read ahead. I have not read ahead. So I have no idea what is happening. I'm just excited because there's now frogs, and I've been told since the middle of season 1 to watch out for the frog moment. And we got ourselves a frog.
It's almost here, man. Almost here.
Awesome. Well, with all that being said, we're very much looking forward to the next episode, and we're also looking forward to your comments on this episode as well. Let us know if there's anything that we missed, anything that we got wrong. Give us your thoughts and theories as well for what is happening on this royal hunt. And if you'd like to support the work that we do, please like and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and check out the books that we've published. Links for them are in the description below. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this incredible adventure that we call writing.
One sec. Because you did say you have a surprise, or is this coming after we sign off?
The surprise is coming after we sign off.
Okay. Sounds good.
No, it will be viewed right there gloriously on the screen.
Okay.
All right. So yeah, enjoy that little bit. It's only gonna be about an extra 30 seconds. And it applies directly to this episode. Nothing too weird. I promise. So, until the next video, y'all, choose.
Okini.
お前に話したいことがある。いつかは言わねばと思っていた。俺は本当は。
なんだ。硫黄の匂い。
レイファが。
The hunt must end.
レイ、少し驚かせ。
50メートル近くある崖を飛び降りるとは無茶なことを。